I am live and kicking.
Delicious.
I hope the audio is good. That would be awkward if it wasn't.
Is my microphone okay today?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I just haven't got my...
we're not at the hobby hangout anymore.
Yeah, but so I lost my cable and my hat thing for my mic.
Oh,
at the
yeah,
hangout.
there wasn't the little cover thing wasn't there.
Weird.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think anyone stole it, but like, what a weird.
It wasn't
thing,
on.
you know what I
It
mean?
wasn't on the mic when we were setting up. I don't remember it being on there.
Oh, maybe I lost it on the way, and I just didn't notice it because I was so like pumped up for the day.
Possible.
Weird.
Might be on the floor. Who knows? One of the kids might have picked
To
it
be
up.
fair, my room is like pretty messy. Oh yeah, maybe I dropped it at the hobby hangout and didn't realize. Yep.
Who knows? Who knows? Welcome everybody to episode 151 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, and we're back from the Hobby Hangout.
Yeah, we are back, and what a fantastic experience it was
That was great.
at the hobby hangout. And
Yeah, had a lot of fun. It was good.
what was your favorite memories or favorite moments from the hobby hangout?
It was just a nice day to get out and talk to people. It was
Yeah.
it was good. I don't know, the layout this time was really good. There's still the audio with, unless you're in the right zone, you couldn't hear the stage. But I did go past, I think at the most opportune times, Lane was giving a bit of a demonstration on preparing the cards for grading. That was cool. Speaking of which, we did catch up with Lane, which was awesome, and we've got to set something else up to go into in depth with that app launch. But yeah, seeing a lot of friends of the show, I caught up with. I think we both did. We caught up with a lot of people, so
Yeah.
it was nice. It was just a good day all around.
I would agree with you. I think it's probably the perfect time for us just to go into our first little segment of today's show, which is literally just to say to people, show us your pickups. What did you think well? What needed to be fixed? I think immediately when you walked into the hobby hangout this year, the feedback last year was it was too dark. It was too gloomy. You couldn't even see the cards. And they'd hired a whole bunch of extra lighting this year. And that really changed the complexity of the day.
Yep.
And in a really strange way too, it felt like the venue was larger because it was a lot more well lit.
The lighting was great, and I think it
Yeah.
was spaced out a little bit better though, as well.
Yeah.
I think it was a double pronged thing.
Yeah, and not that I was standing there counting the tables, but there was sort of a general feeling that maybe there was a couple of less tables this year, but that was actually a
Yeah.
positive thing because there were so many people there. It just meant with the larger amount of people there, they could actually get around tables and navigate around a little bit.
Exactly.
And interesting feedback that has really got nothing to do with the hobby hangout at all, but some people go to those events and actually feel quite claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And as a Melburnian post-COVID, I'm not actually someone who feels claustrophobic, but I have to admit, post-COVID, that does sort of come to my mind a bit. I'm like, oh, there's just a few too many people around here for my likings, these days. So I get that
Yeah.
whole sort of concept of that. So I agree with that, definitely.
Yeah.
My really early impression about the hobby hangout was that at the start, I was like, oh, there wasn't many people here. And then 15 minutes after the doors opened, it was just so full of people.
Yeah, it was
You know,
good.
you could barely, walk around. And then it just sort of just continuously, people came and went. And then sort of the next wave came along. And I thought that the showing was really good. And I remember at the previous hobby hangout, vendors were kind of complaining it was a little bit too slow. There wasn't that much cash being sort of moved back and forward, but I heard no one saying that this year. It was the exact opposite, though. Everyone said they had a very, very good day.
Vendors were buying.
Yeah.
People were buying and selling.
So I'll walk you into that. So tell us your theory about vendors buying and selling and what happens with
well, we've been saying it for a while now. I think it's that time of the year as well. Like it's that end of season dip off, I guess. People are looking
definitely
to move stuff along.
Yeah.
I think it's healthier hobby-wise to see vendors buying cards. Like, it's a good time of the year to do it. Maybe it isn't a low time. But by buying cards, they're actually encouraging the ability to sell cards. Because some people want to sell their cards so they can buy more cards.
100%.
And I think at the previous Hobby Hangout, there was one, maybe two vendors buying. It was very limited. And here on the weekend, it was very much every second stall had someone buying.
There was a stall that had a large neon lineup saying buying. And I thought that was, to me,
buying.
really interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I also do wonder a little bit too, we've seen the trends on card lot about the last 2 years, how much it's dipped down. Are some people out there actually just thinking, hey, actually now is a good time to be getting out there and buying in bulk and, buying up some nice cards because, we have just had 2 years of reduction. So, look, I had a really, really good time. I agree with you. We went around and spoke to a whole bunch of people that we wanted to.
Yeah.
And then from a personal point of view, I thought the podcast was better this year because we were out on the floor and, my OCD with the acoustics was pretty well known to people who listen to the show. And there was acoustic paneling in the roof and that made a world of difference. And the podcast wasn't...
That spot we were in was very, very, very nice.
It wasn't our usual audio content quality as it normally is, but at the same time, it was very, very good for a live event. So I'm absolutely ecstatic about that. Yeah. I did have some feedback from people that I was talking a little bit faster than I usually do, and some allegations that I've been hanging around with Peter Dutton's son. I can completely deny all of these rumors. I was just very, very excited to be there, and I was just feeling a bit of adrenaline, I think, Ad. So,
possible. Yeah. It's also a very weird setup, like the way the mic's positioned is sort of like, do we need to reach, I guess?
Speak a bit louder, exactly.
Speak a bit louder, be a bit more forceful. It was, it's definitely a different environment when you're doing it live. It was good. It was a good experience, and it was good to see just people walking past, trying to figure out what we were doing. Yeah. Some people were trying to interact with us, and we couldn't. We had to keep talking, so apologies.
We did a lot of sign language, and
Yeah, exactly right. It was. I don't know. I've come away with it with some ideas for next time. I actually had a bit of a sidebar with our friend Joe. About ideas for the next Hobby Hangout that
let's do it now.
A brainstorming set. Well,
let's do it now. Yeah,
we were thinking of maybe setting up our own stand and doing it there and having sort of our own little trade box. So We're not selling cards; we're just trading them. That'd be something fun. Have obviously some bits and pieces for sale. And obviously call that pocket change because, on point for branding. Yeah, and then obviously doing maybe some Q&A stuff for the pod, maybe do an extended little bit of footage so that we could put that up on socials. I don't know, maybe we do have a table and sit there for the day and sort of have people come up and chat to us at a permanent spot at the Hobby Hangout next time.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a traders box,
Yeah, bit of fun.
Alrighty, Joe Fu. I think an earlier start time, kick it off at 10 to 10:30.
Amen.
Bump in time needs to move up as well, as most vendors are there by 8 a.m. but needed to wait until 8:30 to bump in. Allow an earlier entrance into the trading room would be great for ticket holders. Then open up the show 30 to 45 minutes later would be cool. So I think what he's trying to say there is let the vendors in earlier,
that.
But also let traders come in and sort of pay for an extra ticket. Now, the Melbourne card fair, I believe you can do that. You pay an extra $5 or $10 and you get like an early bird type ticket.
Can you imagine like a green room environment where there's a space, the dedicated trading zone opens before the rest of the show?
Yeah.
That means everybody that's waiting to get in has their cards with them and can talk and trade before they go into the show.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Matty Yuga, I don't know if I could last another couple of hours as a vendor. So I think that's the pro and the con of that. And look, it is a really long day. And I don't know how you felt that. I just felt it was 10 o'clock. And the next time I looked at my watch, it was 4 p.m. So, and I came home that night and I was absolutely...
I was going to say, I'm not one to comment and stuff like this because I used to do the Penny Arcade Expo, which is 3 days from 7 a.m. till midnight.
Yeah, right.
And running that stand was mental. Yeah. It was taxing. I get it. Yeah. But if you're doing a big show, the Hobby Hangout's supposed to be one of the bigger ones in town. So maybe that is maybe
So your advice to Matty Uger is basically have a
harden up.
spoon of concrete and
Yeah,
harden up.
that's
Yeah.
it. Either that, or if we're gonna have our stand, we can have other people share the stand with us. Have a big stand that we share, so you can
The
rotate
part timers.
it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Bo Summer. First off, just started listening to you guys. Bo, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate every click and loving it. Don't know how my family feels about listening to the pod in the car, but screw them. So I would say we do try and keep it family friendly, and I hope your family does enjoy it. I've never been to a hobby hangout show before and wasn't sure if they'd come back to Brisbane, so I decided to fly down to check it out. Now, I clarified that was down to Sydney, not to Melbourne. Personally, being an introvert, like probably most of us, in my opinion, it was a little bit too crowded, but to really enjoy it properly, I don't know how you would fix that. Maybe a larger space, but it was cool to put some names to faces and pick up some nice cards. 100%, mate. I think all of those things I agree on. Look, I think it's a really delicate balance between having something financially viable and not. And so having people in it, I get it, but at the same time, I think that's also a marker that the hobby's thriving and it's successful.
Yeah.
Found a lot of vendors, not all were overpriced, and I get they have to make a profit, but some were just taking the PISS. Glad I went though, and keen for one in Brisbane. And I would say that's a really like common theme that's coming through too. Come to other cities, come to Brisbane, come to Perth. The hobby hangout, people want you, they're thirsty for it. So yeah.
I don't know. A lot of the vendors, and I get the taking the Mickey, so to speak, side of it. But you do they do have a little bit of a markup on it, and most of the vendors, I say most of the ones we know, have a make us an offer mentality. Ask for our
that's
best
almost
price.
expected, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like encouraging
There's ticketed
banter.
price and haggled price. That's right.
Yeah, for sure. Because the first question is like, oh, what's the best price you can go? And he's like, well, I don't know. What do you? And a lot of people would say, what's your price?
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate question. And I'm like, okay, well, my price is 60. And the guy goes, well, 80. So $100 card.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a couple of points to that. I think there's the price that the person paid for it and then the price they're happy to sell it for. And I was watching some US content on this where they were walking around and talking to vendors saying like, what's the worst card in your case that you probably know you're not going to sell? And the vendors were getting out these cards and they're like, look, I bought this in peak COVID for, $10,000 and now it's comping for 2K, and they're like, they've still got it ticketed at, 8 or 10K because they don't want to take a 6K dive on it. And they're like, that's fine. I'm just going to let it sit in my case until it sells, and, I suspect that there's a lot of vendors who are like that because,
and for the right deal, they'll take the hit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And for the right throw in a trade, they'll be like, you know what?
Yeah.
They'll knock it down and throw it in to try and up the value of a trade and try and get some value back. And that's, that's all they're trying to do is get value. They're not trying to gouge people, I wouldn't think.
Matty Uger, food was much better this time around with the smash burgers too. I think, food is a big deal. Food and rest is very important to Matt. So I think we have to keep that in mind.
Yep.
Joe Fu managed to pick up these 2 Shaq Flawlesses from Jono Michael. So I'm not surprised those 2 guys were wheeling and dealing.
I'm not surprised at all. I do believe Jono got himself some nice cards as well from Joe.
Matty Uger dropped in a link to his YouTube channel. Please check out Matty's content. He's homegrown Aussie kid just like us, makes some amazing content.
Yep.
That's not clickbait worthy. So very thoughtful guy. Matty, if you are listening, we're waiting for you to come onto the show. We've asked you so many times now. We're just going to publicly pressure you to coming in. So let's go.
You're back in the country. You've returned. Yep. Now it's time to come
Your
back
list
on
of
the show.
excuses is dwindling. That's right, mate.
That's it.
Yep.
We want you back on.
Alrighty, Jared Begg picked up some really nice Jordans here. So Jared, thank you for a lovely day, mate. It was really great to catch up with you. Ad, what is your favorite card out of his little bunch?
I saw it. I'm like, I saw it as well. I was contemplating picking this same card up. It's the Jordan Power in the Key.
Yeah.
That was it. I was tempted. I walked past it on one of my walk arounds, and then eventually, it
was gone.
Yep.
Jared got it.
I saw who ended up with it, and it was good pickup, great pickup.
All right. Final thoughts on Hobby Hangout?
It was a good day. A really good day. I had a lot of fun. I got myself a Jamie Jaquez Jr. red cracked ice prism. That was
Great.
my only pickup, PSA 10.
Yep.
I'm now convinced that red is the Miami Heat color match. So for those playing at home, what do you think? Is because Miami Heat's red and black, I'm guessing red's a good color match for it. So I'm a sucker.
So
I'm a sucker
going
for
into
a red
that
ice.
color match, and then there's three. So there's the straight red that's numbered.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ruby wave, and you could have the red cracked ice. So there's a bit of choice going around for the color matches for Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I went with the red ice because it's the only one I saw on the day, but yeah, it was good.
Great. No, good pickup, man. Alrighty. PSA vending machine has surfaced in a casino in Las Vegas. Organically, this has just picked up a whole bunch of steam on social media. The boys from Sports Cards Nonsense picked it up. So I think the easiest comparison to this, there is a card vending machine in Emporium in Melbourne. So this is not like a unique thing. When I was in Singapore for holidays, they had one and it had Pokemon cards in it. You literally just go there, look at what they've got for sale in it and pick it out. This one's a little bit different. It's a mystery box. Every card's PSA 10, 50 USD. It spits out a box. It could be anything. All sports, Pokemon. You're hoping to get a Jordan PSA 10.
But it's a PSA 10.
Yeah, they're all PSA 10s. That's right. Yep.
Okay.
If you look really carefully at the logo on there, it does say PSA, but it's not actually their logo. They've changed the color scheme around a little bit. It picked up so much social media heat that PSA actually put out their own official statement to say that yes, it's PSA cards in there, but this vendor has got absolutely nothing to do with us at all. So they're not saying it's a bad thing. They're not denouncing it, but they're also clearly separating themselves from the whole situation.
Yeah, so, it's interesting.
Where are you at with stuff like this, Ad?
Look, I think it's smart on whoever's set up their vending machine.
Yep.
Because can you imagine the backlash of PSA suing them? Like they're using PSA, they're paying PSA for the slabs, right? So they're selling a PSA product. I feel like they're piggybacking on the brand.
Oh, definitely they're piggybacking on the brand.
But with no repercussions because it benefits PSA.
I think it benefits both ways. I feel like both companies at the moment are getting really good free advertising. So.
Yeah, but I think PSA separating themselves are like just in case something goes wrong, really.
Yeah, and maybe also too just to point out that they don't have a commercial interest in this.
Yeah. In case they ever do want to do something like that.
I don't think it would be ethical for them to sell their own cards, because then the whole thing comes up that, you know, they're grading them just to sell them themselves. Like, I think that, look, actually,
watch this space with Fanatics. Anyway.
Yeah, I know they've got a dealership into a platform, but I don't think they're, do you know what I mean? I think that's a separate issue altogether. So I think that actually, now I think about it, that's what they're really trying to do. We're not selling our own graded cards through a vending machine.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough on that.
I don't know. I want to say the one in Emporium now. How much are they?
It ranges in price from, $40 to $100 plus. I'm actually not too sure if it's there anymore, because there was
there was a Card Lab one. There was a Card Lab one in Glen Waverley.
Yeah,
they were selling packs though, or repacks, I think.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about it because I don't really know about it. But something happened with Card Lab, and it was either with their packaging or advertising something. Yep. All right, LeBron James. These next two are for you, Ad. LeBron James has re-signed for 2 years, $104 million on a maximum deal. There was some talk he was going to come back on a less than max, hoping to get Klay Thompson, maybe DeMar DeRozan, something like this. But Chris Paul all didn't want to play with LeBron, which is a little bit sad, I think, for old LeBron.
This is very telling that the whole people like high level players not wanting to come across to LA. Is it because they don't want to be the second fiddle to LeBron and AD, or like Anthony Davis has been quiet the whole time? There's talk of LeBron taking a pay cut, and let's be fair, he's a billionaire. He probably doesn't need to take the max.
A billionaire with an enormous ego that would probably be very sad if he had to take 10% less than max, right? Like
Not
let's
gonna
keep it
lie
in
though,
context.
can we
Yeah.
keep the context of? Can you imagine rocking up to work with your dad, and you're on 4 million a year or 2 million a year, and dad's on 50 million? It's a bit rough.
I mean, to be fair, Bronny Jr. did get a guaranteed deal, 3+1.
He
So
did, he did, he
not
did.
many second rounders get that ad. Like,
It's true. It's
uh,
true. It's true. Maybe the nepotism scaring some of these big names off.
yeah, maybe that is the fallout, isn't it?
They
But
don't want to be part of a narrative. They're like,
yeah,
just on that though, LeBron has a no trade clause
really.
in this 2 year deal. Yeah, him and Bradley Beal are the only two in the league with a no trade clause.
Yeah.
But I do think it's hindered the chances of the Lakers being aggressively competitive come the pointy end of the season. I think they're pretty much as they're constructed now with the bulk of their salary taken up by AD and LeBron,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So there's sort of no wiggle room. And I get it. Year 22 LeBron is going to be better than more than 80% of the league. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've got LeBron listed as a top 20 player still. So even at the age of 40, he's going to be like a scary proposition on most nights. It's just his longevity and whether or not he's going to be healthy for the whole season and what the Lakers can do around it. I mean, they've still got Reeves, Rui, Dyson, who else was it? Jackson Hayes re-signed, D'Angelo Russell. They've got a core there. I just don't think they've got a lot else to go with it.
I think without adding extra pieces, like without adding Klay Thompson or Chris Paul, say,
Yep.
I don't see them then going on to win the championship.
Agreed.
That's my very simple take on the Lakers. So
My thought at the moment is that the D'Angelo re-signing is he's going to be a trade piece.
okay,
There's going to be some form of trade. They're trying to orchestrate something.
let's take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk some LeBron James card value because I feel like this is something we've not really done. Like for a while, we didn't talk about Jordan cards for sort of 2 years. Then we sort of did something about that. I feel like LeBron is the next
LeBron needs some love.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a break. Thank you, the Bangman, for all of your support. Amir and all of the team at the Bangman. We really appreciate everything you do for us. The Bangman has a break page, so get onto Facebook at the Bangman. You'll find it as a public group. He's ripping wax just about every day with the usual enthusiasm, professionalism that you'll come to expect from all of Amir's products. He is doing it live every day. Also find Amir on Instagram at the Bangman. He'll take care of you. Check it out. Alrighty, we are back. Welcome back, Adam. How was your break? Did you get some drinks?
I had a bit of a stretch, had a bit of a sip on some water, rehydrated.
Beautiful. Alrighty, I want to talk LeBron James card values because this is something we don't do very much.
Feeling well? What are you talking about, LeBron James?
Yeah, 2003 Topps Chrome Rookie Refractor PSA 10. Last sold for $26,100. Population on this, 178. That's just on the PSAs. We probably should talk about the BGS.
Go to that pop report?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Just because at that time, BGS was definitely the big dog in the market. So 9.5s, there's 442 of them. But if you look just a little bit more to the left, so there's just 31 10s and 4 black labels. So there's not a lot of these cards. And I think particularly as we compare to Ultra Modern, I think the really fun question about this is, what are we moving into now? What, year 20, 21, 22 with LeBron?
Yeah, year 21.
Buy, hold, or sell for you at $26,000, hypothetically, if you had that much cash just sitting in your bank.
For a PSA 10?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm like, I wouldn't be in a hurry to sell it. And I do think over time it'll go up. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it's a hold.
I think where my head sits with this is like, what are you comping it to? Something else to get a bit of, value comparison. So I probably like this a little bit better than, say, the Jordan.
Okay.
Like with the Jordan, how many of them are out there? How many of them are faked? On and on. That whole sort of debate rages in my head. Whereas I look at this, I'm like, population on this is pretty low still. Of course, there can be fakes out there. I'm not going to be completely naive to that. But I'd also say, too, I think there's a lot less fakes of the LeBron out there than the Jordan. I like this a lot, actually. And I think also, too, for that sort of, future uptick and, moving up in the future, I think there's, a lot of space there. I might do this for next week's show. LeBron, Steph, Jordan, sort of look at the three sort of current big dogs.
Defining.
Do a bit of a comp out on that. I think that will be super fun, yeah.
It's not too bad at all, yeah.
Alrighty. Your boy has been re-extended at the Celtics. Derek White, 4 years, $125 million. It's
been paid.
Look, I'm gonna say this publicly. I was very wrong about this. We need to check his hobby values to see where he's at, but I feel like we had very different opinions on this. And I feel like you were really the person who was right about it. So, Ad, I've got to give you your flowers right now. Congratulations on the Derek White prediction.
I stuck with him. Product of the Greg Popovich.
Can I double back just what I said 2 seconds ago? So he is down 30% in the last 3 months.
But
so his last sale was $52, down from $90.
Oh, far
at $52, I don't mind that at all, actually.
Look, although over the last year, he's up 60%. Starting
population
at
169. Yeah. Look, I'm totally fine with this. So I think the next 2 years he's going to be really important to that team. Funny side note for this. So the Celtics ownership are actually in the middle of a sale. So they've just re-signed. Good time to sell, but interesting. They've just re-signed Jaylen Brown, obviously to the biggest deal in NBA history. And I'm just going to move down the sheet. Let's just go ahead a little bit. So Jason Tatum's also been re-signed to now the largest contract in NBA history for $314 million. Then you add in Derek White. Like
125 mil, yep.
This team is going to be, I think it's going to be the highest payroll in like NBA history, ever. I don't think that's a question. But I think for me, where this really gets interesting is the tax bill that they then have to pay.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, you've got a new ownership that's to come up and pay the bill. Like the current owner is signing these contracts, but they're not going to be paying them.
They're just like, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I actually wonder if someone say Derek White is going to be very valuable to this team because, look, I'm completely speculating here, and this is not based on fact, but let's just say Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can't play together. They can't afford it. They have to move one of these pieces on. I think that's where Derek White becomes insanely valuable. Or maybe he gets traded somewhere else and, he
becomes a good trade piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of money to me for Derek White, though.
He's
I think
important.
His agent did a really good job on that.
He's an upgrade to Marcus Smart, I think.
Okay.
Cheap upgrade, too.
Now, this next one is a really weird one. So I'm going to consider this an art piece, and it might work or it might not work. So this could be just some nonsense that we're talking about. And it's actually come from Sports Cuts Nonsense page. Now, the author of this is Michael Stewart, and I'm going to reach out to him because I wouldn't mind him to come onto the show. Like, this is such a crazy story that it's actually worth talking about. So what he did was he went out, he bought 45 cards. All of them were 10s from the company Gem. He then cracked every single one of them and subbed them to PSA to do like a double-blind test, essentially. Now, statistics and maths wasn't my major. However, I do remember some stuff from statistics. You need at least 30 in a sample size for it to be significantly significant. So he's gone to 45. So he's gone over that.
Sure, yep.
Yeah. Now, his PSA sub returns were 3 10s, 5 nines,
Mm-hmm.
5 eights, 2 sevens, 2 6, 1 5, and 27 that didn't get a grade at all, minimum size or evidence of trimming. So,
Wow.
so look, I want to see some proof of this, and I think this is like just a funny story for us to have a giggle about, but not go too deep on it. But so I think the narrative for me is, we understand that PSA is a more reputable company when it comes to grading. The side story to this, though, is, and this is something we've spoken about before, but I think this really clearly defines it, is that people will take fakes and cut cards, resub them until they get a 10 at all these different grading companies. And we were talking about that when smaller Australian grading companies were popping up, and we're talking about, what's your pedigree, what's your provenance, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why all that matters, is because you've got a gem 10 in your hand, but what does it actually mean? And these numbers here lay that out really, really well. So yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah.
I thought the other experiment was PSA just pick numbers at random to give to cards.
Look, I think there is some truth to that too.
Yeah.
We can't say PSA is perfect and they've never done a step wrong. Of course that, but at the same time, I think that's a really interesting one. Now, look, we do need some
Context.
see some more screenshots or something like that. So, but I can't wait to have a chat to Michael. I think that's a really fun one to chew through. Alrighty, so hobby wise this week, this is actually really big. This actually will influence the hobby. This will also influence the price of Prism Choice moving forward. The 1-of-1 Nebula from Prism Choice got pulled this week. Got pulled by Blaise. I don't think that's a massive surprise. We all know how much Blaise loves Prism Choice. Adam, if I engaged you as a broker to sell this card, what would you be telling your client this card is worth?
I would be letting my client know that there are previous 1-of-1 sales for our lovely friend Victor Wembanyama in the proximity. When was the last? Was it $500,000 that it sold for?
Yeah.
That there is evidence to show this card could sell for $500,000.
So that was the Black Shimmer that you're referencing. Do you think that the Nebula is worth more?
Marginally, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it could go either way at auction. I wouldn't try and oversell it, because then I'd think I'd sound like a used car salesman. But I think both being 1-of-1s gives a good comparison of a starting block for the potential sale of this card.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be like, I think at a minimum you're in that ballpark. That would be how I'd be marketing it to a client.
I agree with the dollar value. I think that's a really easy comp to make for it.
Yeah.
I think for me the more interesting question is, would you hold it, hoping that it's going to go up in the future because he's going to be the future MVP and the future GOAT, he's got all the tools? Or do you sell it now and say, look, his hype is so much at the moment, there's so much heat on this guy, let's get the sale and let's do it now? Where are you at with that?
I can see an argument for both.
Yeah, 100%.
I would probably sell it and try my hand at picking up some other value.
Live with the regret if it does go up later on.
Yeah, where it's one of those, well, I could end up with, I don't know, I could go and get some of those Wemby kabooms, right? That are worth like 30 to 40,000. Like stuff like that, and just start accumulating those.
Okay, yeah.
To the value of, I don't know, save a couple of $100K, go and actually be an adult with that money, and then spend another like $300K on kabooms and random bits and pieces, and go, let's see if diversifying a portfolio there with cards is sort of more lucrative.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go back to the other week where we're talking players as stocks. WEM for Wembanyama.
Did we agree on a stock number for Wemby?
No, I don't think. What would you have it? I'd say WEM.
Yeah, I think Wem. That's pretty easy to remember.
MBY could be. I don't know.
I think Wem is
Wem
That's pretty
stocks.
obvious.
Just don't sell
Alrighty.
your Wem and buy into LUK because that's fraught with danger.
Alrighty. Now, this next one is from the source that I hate to reference, but it's from Sports Card Investor. Walmart is joining the hobby. This extension of Walmart Marketplace will allow the sale of collector's items, including trading cards and memorabilia, as well as other items like comics and coins. As of now, to sell on the platform, you need to apply for the Walmart Marketplace with a tax ID. The platform is currently offering 0% referral fee from the 1st to the 30th. So I think my thoughts on this is that this is just the hobby growing and maturing more. So this is another example of a vending machine in Vegas where the hobby is just slowly infiltrating out to our society. Look, I've got no problem with this, but I personally think there's better marketplaces that are a lot more established.
Facebook for starters, no.
Yeah, Facebook, sure, but I think maybe even the better example at the moment is eBay. Like the things that eBay is doing to improve their services and in particular specifically to sports cards, like they're really listening to people who, in my opinion, who are doing the right things.
Yeah.
And then also, moving forward to where you've got this combined platform between Golden's, PSA and eBay, where you've just got this whole sort of encapsulated sort of experience. Look, that's fine. Look, I've got no problems with people maybe cross-listing onto Walmart, something along those lines. But at the same time, I think at the moment, it almost feels like the race has been won.
Yeah, I don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel. My thoughts are reflected very much by the first comment that I saw on the Instagram post, and that is just what we needed: another marketplace. Said no one ever.
Oh, that's Mac Card Collection. He's a funny dude, actually. Yeah,
it's like, come on, like really? We don't. Yeah, well, my thought is like we've got enough places to sell our cards, and hell, yeah, people are just trying to jump on board. Like this race has been, the race isn't even on anymore, as you said. Like
I think in terms of jumping on board, I do agree with that, to a degree, but also Walmart already has all that infrastructure in place and all, the system set up. So it's not a crazy leap for them to sort of, move into this marketplace.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. Particularly if it's a consignment thing, it's almost like money for nothing for Walmart, isn't it?
For them, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Alrighty, let's have a quick break. When we come back, we'll do the last segment of the show, because actually this week it's a slightly abridged Russell and Adam episode because we do have a guest coming on.
Well, there's a bit of us in the guest bit.
True.
Yeah.
It's Rod from Neon Cards. So what will happen is this will be a 45-minute episode, and then Rod will have his own episode. Then for the radio show, we'll just mix it all in together, basically. So
yeah. Pretty cool. Let's take a break.
Okay, we are back for our final segment of this week. Now, the rest of it, we do have a little bit of hobby chat in it, but most of it, it's just us talking about the trades that's happened and then basically our favorite ones. What's your favorite trade that's happened in the off-season, Ad?
It's not the trade or signing.
Whichever you want. Yeah, whichever movement. Movement is probably the better word.
I mean, as I said at the beginning of the show, so I think I've been taken out of trade because the Lakers haven't done much. I thought they would be more active, but anyway, this is not a Lakers episode. This is we're talking about the trade period. Chris Paul to the Spurs was my.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was excited to see what this is going to mean for the Spurs.
What do you think it means for the Spurs?
I think they've recruited a veteran to help upskill this young core that they're developing. I mean, it's no secret that the Spurs drafted a guard with their first pick. Is it Stefan Castle? Undersized guard, is he? But undersized too? What would you call it?
Again, so my head isn't really in this space, but what I was reading on Basketball Reference the other day, it's more about him, the way that he plays. Defensive, but also a playmaker and someone that just moves the ball around and it's going to facilitate, and that's something he enjoys to do. I think that's a very Spurs.
He's going to get they recruited the Spurs guard that they need.
Yeah. Outlook on life, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. And I think Chris Paul, embodies Spurs culture, I think.
In what way?
In the
Be
fact that
specific.
he is a pass first point guard. He is
Yep.
is very
Pass first.
facilitative.
Yep.
And
And
yeah.
very cerebral. I think he's a
Yeah.
really smart guy and he plays
Correct.
basketball the right way,
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes I think he'll hold on to the ball for too long and I think that will cause some problems for Pop, but at the same time, yeah, I remember Doc Rivers was trying to get him to pass the ball and not hold on to it at the top of the key, and it just sort of seemed that Chris Paul, won out. So I think that's going to happen the same thing for the Spurs.
Yep.
So my take on him going to the Spurs is that I wonder if he fits into the greater philosophy of the Spurs. So you know how they've got this sort of Spurs tree where people come into the Spurs and then they go into the coaching and then they maybe go into the front office. I wonder if this is like, we really like you, Chris Paul. Yeah, come and play with us. You can mentor the guys. I think that's a little bit of an offshoot. I'm guessing this is like something that is going to be like a long-term agreement where,
Chris
he's
Paul will
helping
be
them out.
in and around the club after
Yeah,
he
in the
finishes
front office,
playing.
you need smart people who have good basketball minds doing basketball things, and
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I actually couldn't find a chrome of his rookie card, but I did find just it is a chrome card, but the base of the chrome. So PSA 10 population on this is 416. The last sold price on this is $108.50.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of hobby love for Chris Paul, so I'm not shocked to see this price, but at the same time, it does seem a little bit low, particularly when we, talk about other people in the hobby. If you found a better card for us to talk about, I'm happy.
I've got
to
the
pull that
Chrome
up too.
Refractor.
Okay, sure.
Last sold for 1,800. Pop count of 24. Yeah, he does have a kaboom.
Let's talk about that because his PSA 10 2030 Panini Innovation Kaboom.
Yeah.
Population on that is just 5. Last sold for 900 US a very long time ago. I will definitely admit that.
Yeah.
Super interesting though that the card ladder value is significantly less at 513. I think the person who bought this for $34 and sold it at 900 is absolutely a genius of the hobby, and I congratulate you immensely. But even if you bought that for $34 and just held it, I think that's a really, really great card to have in your collection.
Very solid.
A very shrewd purchase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think for me, there's been a lot of movement happening in the Thunder, and we talked about it last week. And look, I think the Thunder have won the off season, and then we spoke about the Magic last week, so I don't want to go through that again. But that's my first and second. And then I think if we have to go for a third place, I kind of sneakily like what the Clippers did this year because they let go Paul George. And I think some people say, well, that's a bad thing to let go of Paul George, but I think paying him $50 million when he's 38, I don't think that's fantastic. They then took a chance on Kevin Porter Jr., who is this insanely talented guy who has had his list of problems, but at the same time, I'm really happy to see him back in the league. So I think there's going to be some people who are holding Kevin Porter who are very, very excited about this, and I'm sure they're getting ready to, sell their cards at the first sort of positive signing of Kevin Porter Jr., which is fine, by the way.
Yeah.
There is some speculative purchases to be made in that space, and then obviously the Clippers also took a chance on Primo last year, and we've made a lot of jokes about Primo and what he got up to, so we don't need to go through that again.
No flash sales. That's all I can say.
there might be some flash sales. I think now's also a really fun time to go through the Paul George for SGA trade. So,
yeah,
the Thunder received SGA, Danilo Gallinari, a 2021 first-round pick, which turned out to be Trey Mann, a 22 pick, which turned out to be Jalen Williams, EN, so the good Williams, 2023 first-round swap, which wasn't conveyed. Now, this is going to the future. 2024 first-round pick, 25 first-round pick, 25 first-round swap pick, and 26 first-round pick. So they've still got more assets coming in, and Paul George is not even on the team anymore. And literally, Paul George, left for nothing. So tough one for the Clippers there.
Yeah, I think OKC wins the trade.
Just slightly.
Like there's no saving. Yeah, no, there's nothing that saves this for the Clippers. It's good to see.
This next one is really a pet sort of one for me. So the Houston Rockets picked up AJ Griffin. Last year I spoke about him on the show saying I really liked him as, potential, and then he basically got injured the next week and, didn't play much at all for the rest. But
Yep.
super weird one for me because the Hawks are not really in a position to be tanking because they don't own their draft pick next year. So
Mm.
somehow the Hawks are trying to be good, but also, somewhat giving up assets. So AJ Griffin off to the Houston Rockets. The only problem I have with this in terms of hobby value for AJ Griffin, I don't think this is going to help his value at all
No.
because the Rockets are kind of weirdly stacked in the same way that the Orlando Magic are and also the Thunder are. They've just got lots of like sort of good
Assets.
young players. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also too, Houston seems to be in a strange mode of they want to be young but good at the same time. So I think if he's not playing well, he's not going to be in the rotation to sort of receive developmental minutes. I don't think that's going to happen. So look, I'm not giving up on AJ Griffin. I think he's going to be a long-term pro, but
Mm.
I'm not super excited about this. Hey, Ad, why don't we do one more and then we'll tie off today's show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I think we should finish this week's show on a eye-catching sale from PSA.
Let's do it.
So this is something we don't see very often. This is a Michael Jordan in a Wizards card.
Ooh,
And
pretty.
before we go through the sale, I just want to talk to you about that concept for a second. Have you ever seen anyone doing a wanting to buy Jordan in a Wizards jersey request?
No, I actually don't hear it like when people talk about wanting Jordans. No one's like, I want a specific, like a Jordan in a Wizards. I want a good
Yeah.
Jordan in a Wizards.
I've
No.
never, ever heard of that ever before. So I'm a little bit surprised on this sale, actually, because
It's
you
interesting.
can say it each way. You can say, well, actually, this is unders. Or you can say, well, this is, a lot of money. So it is a black refractor number to 99, PSA 10. It's sold on eBay for $12,800. It's a Topps 2002 Chrome. Look, I think it's a really good card, but I think where I struggle a little bit with this purchase is like,
Jordan as a Wizard.
yeah, and how much do people chase this stuff and in the future?
I mean, look,
know-
let's put this into context, right?
Yeah, hit me.
Jordan in a Wizards uniform is exactly the same success-wise as Luka Doncic. They've won exactly the same amount of championships. Which is currently at 0 if anyone's keeping count. So maybe success does count. Who knows? I had to get a dig in. I had
You nearly got to the end of the show without slaying our boy.
and congrats to Klay Thompson, who's now joining Luca in Purgatory. So yeah,
That's a weird one. I think we have to break that down a little bit more next week. Because I haven't
we've
had
got
to
time.
go
We've got time once the whole trade period sort of ends, and we'll break down some key big acquisitions in a future show.
Look, I think for me, would I buy, hold, or sell this? I think this is a sell at 12,000. The only thought I've got in the back of my head is actually these are undervalued assets. So these are like really nice Jordan cards, but no one's buying them because they're Wizards. Is that narrative going to change around in the future? That's the only part where I'm a bit.
I don't know. It's
Bit
there's
hung up
a
on
lot
that.
of Jordan. There's a lot of Jordan. All right, if it's not in a Bulls uniform, there we go. Would you prefer a Jordan in a North Carolina or a Wizards uniform?
I don't like college stuff at all, but actually, I'd probably prefer North Carolina. It's something weird about him being in a Wizards uniform. I
Yeah.
think you've answered the question.
Yeah.
Good work, Ad. Good analogy.
Bit of a
All
zinger
right.
there. All right. Well, that's
Final thoughts, Ad. What have you got for me?
looking forward to the next hobby hangout, and
A long way to be looking ahead, Ad.
oh look, it'll be here before you know it. The planning is the fun part. So we'll
Yeah, we've definitely got a few
get-
things to work on.
we'll get
Yeah.
busy brainstorming.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We really appreciate your time and support.
And we'll be back next week.